Welcome to the Peaks Central Asian Film Festival podcast, a companion to the annual celebration of cinema from Afghanistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Western China, Western Mongolia, Central and Eastern Russia, Eastern Iran, and Northern Pakistan, or from filmmakers whose country of origin is one of these countries, including members of the diaspora. This podcast continues the conversation sparked by the festival through interviews with filmmakers, features on standout submissions and winners, and deep dives with fans and scholars of Central Asian film. Join us as we explore the region's diverse narratives and connect with the people shaping its cinematic future. I'm Tim, and I'm here with my co-host Tay. Tay, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. This is super exciting. It's a little different than what we're used to doing, Tim, but I'm really excited to get to talk about Central Asian cinema and go over all the amazing potentialities of this festival.
Absolutely. This is a sort of exciting new endeavor that we've been, I think, very generously invited to be a part of by the Peaks Film Festival. For those not in the know and that haven't followed us over, Tay and I host a movie podcast called Single Serving Cinema, which is not really covering the same films that we're going to talk about in this one, which is why it's so exciting for us. We're both coming to this as very much novices in the culture of Central Asian film and the filmmakers and the styles, and see it as an opportunity to learn about film that I don't think gets a lot of coverage and to which there isn't a ton of access even in the West.
Access is definitely one of the restrictions I want to talk about. But yeah, ultimately, I'm just really excited for this opportunity. I'm excited to talk to people who know a lot more about this subject matter than we do. And to just continue learning and being a part of the process with this festival is just really exciting. So very excited for this opportunity.
Absolutely. And that's going to be one of the key aspects of each episode of this podcast going forward, is that we'll always have a guest on it who can lend more expertise or more insight into whatever the given topic is. So whether we're looking at films that were featured in the festival or another Central Asian film, like an actual feature that wasn't in the film festival but has relations to it, or a student of cinema, or even people who are involved in organizing the festival, Tay and I are going to be here to, I think, lend a beginner's perspective and to facilitate a conversation and do what we always do, which is appreciate and love film in all its forms that we come across. And I think it's a really exciting endeavor. So we're getting started here. We're going to see what this looks like, and we're going to figure it out as we go a little bit. But I'm really happy to be here, and I'm glad to have you here with me, Tay.
Right back at you, man. And I think without further ado, we should bring in someone who knows more about the subject than we do.
Absolutely. Let's get this started. So we have, I think very appropriately, as the featured guest on the first episode of the podcast, Sofia Habib, who is an actor, arts worker, and founder and director of Peaks Central Asian Film Festival. She holds a BA in History of Art from the University of Toronto and a postgraduate certificate in Arts Administration and Cultural Management from Humber College. She has performed in short films and theater productions across the GTA, and in 2024 had her directorial debut at the Toronto Real Asian International Film Festival. Sofia, hi, welcome, and also thanks for having us. It's kind of goes both ways, I think.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Tay. I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you, too.
Yeah, it's great to have you here.
I'm really happy to be here. And sort of like what you said, Tim, I'm also a novice in Central Asian film. While I identify with the culture, it's not a very accessible medium that's available to us in the West. And I'm learning so much through this process, and I hope that other people are also learning.
Yeah, that's great. And I think actually before we get into Peaks Film Festival itself, because that's going to be the real meat of the episode, the last part of your bio there, you mentioned that you had your directorial debut. Can you tell us about your film and that experience at that film festival?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a part of this youth filmmaking program at Toronto International Real Asian Film Festival called Unsung Voices. And it's a Canada-wide program. Six youth from across Canada participate in this filmmaking program where you're guided and mentored through writing, editing, directing your film, casting. And it was really hard. It's hard to make your first ever film. Mold is about a young Middle Eastern man who experiences mold poisoning in his home and he becomes obsessed with the mold. He's also going through other things in his life. So as the audience, we can't really tell what is causing his like mental distress, and we see his life sort of deteriorate because of it.
Wow. And so this festival took, this was like kind of later 2024 where you were entered into this. And like, what was that experience like for you? Was this your first time directing any sort of thing with a camera?
Yes, exactly. So this was my first time behind the lens. I'm a performer, so I'm usually in front of the lens.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun writing it. It was really scary having that kind of power in a way, or that kind of control. And it was also really fun getting to direct actors when I'm usually the one being directed. So it was a really unique position to be in. And yeah, that was all throughout summer. And then in the fall was the festival. And then there was a big screening at TIFF Bell Lightbox and a Q&A after, which was really, really fun.
I mean, that's an honor in itself, being screened at the TIFF Lightbox. That's arguably the best theater in Canada. So congratulations on that. That's really impressive.
Yeah. Definitely the
Thank
best
you.
sounding theater, but definitely one of the
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
otherwise too, right? It's a really beautiful place. That's really cool. Sophia, can people see your film somewhere? Is it hosted online?
It is not.
Okay.
I'm submitting it to other festivals, so it isn't
Yeah.
online, unfortunately, but if it's ever screening, I will share that.
Great. You make sure we know, so hopefully we can be there, but also we can put it out over this podcast and make sure other people know.
Yeah.
And I mean, that carries us right over into the idea of short films and their accessibility and also the spotlight being put on them. I guess we're going a little bit further back in time before the real Asian International Film Festival to look at the first year of Peaks. Can you tell us about like where that germ of the idea started? Like what was the very beginning of the idea of Peaks for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Toronto has really amazing film festivals. Like we have South Asian film festivals, we have Pan Asian film festivals, we have um, uh, women, like female film, women and non-binary film festivals. We're really spoiled with options. And Central Asian film um, was never Central Asian film was never given that type of platform and was never
Yeah.
highlighted in a very deliberate way. And I think that that's what was lacking in a lot of film festivals is Central Asian representation. And it'd been something I'd been thinking about for a little while because I don't get to see people like me on screen or behind the camera, and it's disheartening. And so, Tim, like you mentioned,
Hmm.
a few years ago, I was in Humber. I was at Humber College, and as part of our capstone project, our final project, we had to organize our own event. It could have been a film festival, it could have been a workshop. The options were endless, and I thought this was a great opportunity to create this film festival, the first iteration of the film festival. And I had two colleagues that wanted to hop on board with me and really loved the idea and wanted to support it. And that's how Peaks was born.
It's very exciting. And how was it? How'd it go?
I think it was a success. Yeah, we're doing it again. So that means that it went really well. It was a full house.
Yeah,
And
I'd say so.
yeah, it was uh, well received. The films that we received were so incredible, and felt really. I felt really empowered by offering these filmmakers this opportunity to screen in Canada. A lot of the filmmakers were abroad in Central Asia. There was one film from the UK, but um, I think it was a great opportunity for filmmakers to screen in Canada. Although we're a very new festival, who knows where it could go.
Yeah, did you consider? I'm curious because how you mentioned that it was an underserved area in terms of Toronto's film film community. Did you find that the response once you put the call out was it like immediately enthusiastic? Was it sort of were you sort of validated by how many people wanted to be a part of this?
Yeah, absolutely. It helped that my classmates wanted to be a part of it. It made me feel really, it made me feel that this is worth it. And we received so many submissions last year that it was almost unmanageable. Like, we were three people and we had over 800 submissions, and it
Oh
was
my goodness.
such
Wow.
an overwhelming response. And Soulpepper Theater supported us in screening the film last year, so having their support was really meaningful. And yeah, there were just like green lights along the way that made me feel like this was going in the right direction.
I think inherently it takes a lot to go right to have a festival kind of start up and actually be sustainable to continue on to a second year and hopefully further. It's really impressive what you've already been able to accomplish. Were there certain qualities that you were looking for in the films that you were receiving?
That's a really good question. To be transparent, I didn't have any expectations at all
Okay.
because I hadn't seen any films really from Central Asia, like from Kazakhstan, from Kyrgyzstan. I really hadn't seen anything, so I didn't know what was out there, and I was really, really surprised by the quality, the storytelling, and I went in with no expectations, um, and luckily was really surprised by what we saw. And I really was just looking for a diverse story. So I wanted to screen films from many different countries in Central Asia, and also different narratives. So narrative storytelling, nonfiction, documentary, animation. I got all of that, which was super, super impressive.
Kind of an encouraging problem to have, that it wasn't that there wasn't enough people to sort of sustain even a single night of programming. It was that you had an entire region, global regions worth of film to sort through, right? And you can't, because you don't have enough time to show it all, which is a good problem to have, but definitely a resource problem nonetheless.
Yeah, it was the biggest surprise, and I couldn't be happier with the films that we chose and how it all turned out.
What were
Yeah.
can you? Because I know, for anyone who's listening to this who may be also looking into starting a film festival or trying to highlight a culture or a subculture or a region that isn't getting its fair shake in the West, like, what were some of the challenges that you didn't foresee? What were some of the odd things that cropped up?
The incredible thing about festivals is that they're usually very multifaceted. So there's screening, there's programming, there's lots of things happening. And with this, we really could only do a screening because all the filmmakers were abroad. They were mostly in Central Asia. And so with no budget, we couldn't invite them to come and do a talk or a workshop or anything like that. It would have been an incredible experience and opportunity, both for us, for Peaks, and for the filmmakers, I imagine, to come and um, just be here and enjoy the screening. And I don't even know what that would look like to invite a guest or a filmmaker from those regions. I don't know if it's that easy, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
And
mean, just access to some of the films from that region are hard enough to get. So, like, I'm imagining like the filmmakers themselves probably have a hard time, A, making the films, and B, getting them to audiences on this side of the world.
yeah, absolutely. We had a lot of student films, a lot of low budget films, some that were supported by grants and governments from their respective countries
Yeah.
too, which was so interesting and so surprising. So yeah, definitely a mix of um, I guess accessibility.
Which again, I think is just another great reason for this festival itself. I know, like, I wasn't able to attend last year because it's on my radar now, and I'm looking forward to attending this coming year. But Tay and I have gotten to watch some of the films from last year, and these are, again, as you mentioned, and similar to yours right now, where you have it entering festivals, so it's not for screening online. Were it not for this initiative, I wouldn't have seen these films, and some of these shorts are really special things, and I had
Yes.
quite an
Yeah.
experience getting into them. And
I had a maybe a trickier question for Sophia, but if she's up for it, just
Hit me, yeah.
I guess I'm so interested in like why this is such a fascination to not only you, but to like why it's so such like an exciting thing for people to be involved in. So is there something specific about Canada or the Canadian film landscape that lends itself to being such a ripe place for Central Asian film to I don't know, like just based on what I saw from the films from last year, there's a tremendous there seems to be a huge influence of traditionalism, about religion, about social sorry, I'm not wording this correctly. There seems to be like a fascination with so many aspects of generations, of traditions, of landscape. There's like some really common threads from the films that you had in your festival last year. So is there something that maybe translates to the Canadian landscape, or what makes it extra exciting to be here?
Tay, I think that everything you said about the Central Asian films, you could say that about Toronto, and it would all make complete sense. We're such a diverse city. We're so welcoming in that, yeah, like I said, there's so many programming film festivals that are already about specific cultures, and Central Asia is just one of them. And I know that Toronto audiences are open and welcoming. We'll sit down for an hour and a half and read some subtitles. Like we can do that and we enjoy it. It's evident of the fact that last year the whole screening was sold out. All the seats were full. And like people want this, and people want to learn, and people want to engage with cultures that they may know nothing about and leave with more information than they did going into it. And that's what it's really about. This festival may not be successful in other cities. I have no idea, but I felt so confident that Toronto and Canada as a whole would be receptive to it.
And it's really amazing that it has gone that way so far, and it's really exciting to know that it's going to be another busy festival for you. So I guess I just feel that, like you're saying, there was a thirst for this kind of cinema that needed to be represented. There seemed to be a huge cultural gap specifically for this area of the world being represented in cinema. Is there a reason like why it's so hard for us to access these films? Is it specifically like political challenges from those regions? I know that up until recently, a lot of them were, or not until recently, but until 1992, they were under Soviet control. So that's part of it, I understand. But what do you see this as like an opportunity for this area of the world to generate a lot more films from like the ground up, from like the low budget independent level?
But yeah, I think maybe it's influence from the US and just the history of Central Asia with their affiliation with the Soviet Union. So I imagine it just because of that it just hasn't reached us. And um
We are kind of
I don't know.
traditionally pretty ignorant to world cinema in North America. Like we don't have a ton of attention placed on it. So, but this is like a specific dark spot. Even
Hmm.
like I consider myself pretty well rounded with seeing a lot of movies from around the world, and I there's like almost nothing that I've seen from this region. So I was pretty surprised when I actually took a look close up and kind of was like, I haven't really seen anything from this area.
Well, and I think like time and time again, you see that like the West has broken into a cinematic culture when a member of that cinematic culture broke into the West, right? So whether that's like Park Chan Wook and Old Boy, or Godard and French cinema, things like that, where you have people, cinephiles, filmmakers in the West who say, "Oh, well, I was influenced by this person actually, and that's someone no one's seen," and they put the spotlight on them, and then within a decade or two, you've got Parasite winning an Oscar. I think it commonly seems to take that sort of pattern from the West. So, I mean, a
Yeah,
film
that's a good
festival
point.
can play a key role in that, right? Like if the right Western filmmaker, Western film lover sees something at Peaks that unlocks something in them, or that they want to homage or something like that, that's just like one little thread that starts drawing a Western view over towards the art that they're making in those countries.
I guess I would
Yeah.
think like Kiarostami would be in that category too, right? Though Tim as an auteur who has had a pretty big presence in North America.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you said that really eloquently.
So I mean, no, that's
Good at
another
that.
great reason that this is happening, and why we're excited to be a part of this. Like, just like Tay said, there's a big blank spot for me. It was film that I haven't gotten into, and I mean, I immediately started looking into like people's letterbox lists of Central Asian film, because at least you've got a lot of film nerds on there who can at least put things together. And while some of them, they're not necessarily going to be found on Netflix that easily or things like that, anytime we can, we're going to spotlight things and how to access them in a way that benefits the filmmaker if we can. I would assume from time to time we're just going to find things on YouTube, because that's where they can be hosted when people have a small budget. But if we can find ways for these filmmakers to have their movies seen in theaters or rented online, or at least have those views counted, we'll do that. With that, like, let's talk about this coming year. When's the second year of the festival happening? Where is it happening? And like, has it developed? Is it bigger? Is there new dimensions to it? What can people look forward to?
Yes. So, well, thank you for your kind words about last year's films. I hold them all dear to my heart. So I hope you have similar things to say about this year's. But this year it's screening again at Soulpepper Theatre in Toronto in the Distillery District on April 25. Doors open at 6:30. Screening is at 7, and tickets will be available through Soulpepper's website. Peaks will also be screening on June 21st at 8:30, doors at 8 at Niagara Arts Centre in St. Catharines, Ontario. We're very excited to be partnering with Niagara Arts Centre for this iteration of Peaks. Both locations are offering their locations in kind, which is so generous. This year I have a new colleague, Kosar, who I'm so thrilled to be working with. She's incredible and has already helped expand the festival, um, has already helped to expand the festival to Niagara, which is really exciting. And we may also have some extra programming that is still being figured out. So, yeah, that's the nature of small organizations, is everything is kind of last minute. So,
Mm-hmm.
maybe there will be something really exciting. I hope to have a little talk or a Q&A with someone from Toronto, hopefully.
That's very exciting. I'm really looking forward to being I think I'm coming to the Toronto one, although I live in the Niagara region. I'm unfortunately going to be busy for the NAC one, but I'm really looking forward to being there in person. Now, I also understand, so April 7th, which by the time this post will probably have come and gone, you announced the selected films on April 7th. You mentioned last year you got a lot of submissions. Was it the same thing this year? Was it a lot to work through?
Yeah, it was a lot to work through. But we manage it like we kind of have to. We keep the submissions open and free, so we get loads of submissions, lots that are eligible, unfortunately, some that are not. But either way, it's still kind of lovely to see the films that we can't screen. It's just a fun way to learn about new emerging filmmakers all over the world.
Absolutely. And so just a note for anyone listening out there, all this information, your dates, links to the website, links to Soulpepper where you can get tickets, everything like that will be in the video description below. So make sure you keep track of all that. And another thing just to note about this initiative in general is that, well, the film festival is, it's in Toronto, it's in Niagara, they're one night only each. And if you don't live in the area or you're busy on those days, that limits your access to it. That's part of why Sofia and Kosar wanted to get this podcast off the ground, because it allows this conversation to keep going. So if you can't engage with the festival directly, and the films that are being featured in it aren't necessarily available for rental or view screening online, another way to stay involved in this programming is to keep coming back for this podcast, because we're hoping to interview filmmakers and academics and people and put a spotlight on Central Asian film and start allowing people to draw connections between one filmmaker to the next. So please stay tuned into this. And that might take us to our conclusion, which is what we're going to try to do, and what Tay and I like to do on our podcasts is always end with a recommendation of a film that people can check out. So, Sophia, to slightly put you on the spot, if you have a recommendation of a Central Asian film that you think people should check out, what would that be?
There's a filmmaker that I've seen some of his films and I really love them. They're short. They're always short films. They're so beautiful and eloquent. He's Afghan. His name is Elham Ehsas. And I screened his short film Yellow last year, and he has a few other shorts. You can watch them on YouTube. And he is just such a beautiful filmmaker. One of his, I think this film Yellow was BAFTA nominated. So it's a really, he's a really great filmmaker. Like I said, he's based in the UK, but he's Afghan, and you can follow him online and follow his journey. And I think he's working on another short. So maybe in a couple years I'll get to screen that one too.
Absolutely. That'd be really exciting. I checked out, I think I finished the year one submissions this morning. So Yellow was at the end of it, and I watched that. It was a really beautiful film, really well made. And it's actually really ingenious little filmmaking choices that I'm looking forward to digging into with Tay. So we'll figure out if that's hosted online somewhere or just like his channel, and we'll put that info in the description of this video so people can check out his work. I think that's a fantastic recommendation to kick off this series. And
Thank
with
you,
that,
Tim.
we're gonna wrap up this first episode of the Peaks Film Festival podcast. Thank you so much for being here, Sophia. And for everyone tuning in, we will definitely try to get one more episode out before April 25th when we have the festival in Toronto. So keep an eye on this channel for that. And then after that, it'll be a matter of we want to line up the right guests and dig into some of the actual filmmaking and the decisions being made and the processes behind those films. So we will see you then for that. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tay.